Well, thank you, Kayla, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice, and we appreciate that you take the time to come and listen to us and to celebrate with us the announcement today of the birth, I would say, of two new breeding values, a ketosis value and a feed efficiency value. They will both be incorporated in our CRV breeding indexes, Better Life Health and Better Life Efficiency, and that is exactly the occasion why we are here today, and we would like to take you on a tour to what it means for you, what it means for the dairy industry, for our customers, and for the industry in general. I think it's a unique opportunity that we launch these two breeding values here in the US. It tells you how important CRV values in the US. It's also the reason why we started 5 years ago in the US. It is, we much value the kind of research that is going on here, the quality of the people, the depth and width of the let's say, the genetic population in the US. It all makes the US as an example in the world. And that's why we decided, as a European breeding company, to do this launch in the US, first time in our history. You see here our payoff, because I would like to introduce our company first to you. Better cows, better life. It means that we look at the demand of the dairy farmer in all its aspects, but we never forget the economic aspects of dairy. So better cows can have different meanings for different dairy farmers. It can mean high productive cows, it can mean sustainable dairy cows, it can mean show cows. Better life, the same, that accounts for the dairy farmer and his family. It can mean a wealthy life, a leisure life, an easygoing life, a life that he and his family, or she and her family, want to live. So we try to breed for the dairy farmer, but also with a keen eye on the welfare and the well-being of the farm animals.
There we go.
Right. This is our mission, but in short I would say, and I will come back to that, CRV's raison d'etre is to ensure continuity for our farmer members in the Netherlands and Belgium. I will come back to that later. With a sustainable view. It means that we are not here just to make sure that there is enough wealth at dairy farm level, at member level, that they can pass on the activities to the next generation. That's only one of the purposes that CRV is on earth, but the real thing is that we do that in a way that the next generation has the economic, let's say, stamina, the economic conditions to make a successful continuation of the farm. Right. So as I said already, it starts with in CRV by looking at the wishes of the farmer, then going into the quality of the herd. A lot of farmers, I don't know exactly in the US, but in Europe, they always look at the quality of feed, the quality of their roughage, but they never look specifically in the herd. So they know exactly what they feed, but they don't know to whom they are feeding it. So at CRV, we are very much involved in what we call a talent scan. We look at the inside and the DNA of the herd, of the individual cows, and then we can tailor-made advices on how to feed cows, how to manage cows, and how to go around cows. For example, if you have a robot in your farm, that is a complete different management style, and you need complete different type of cows than when you don't have a robot and when you have a carousel, for example. So that is how we look at dairying, and then we come up with advice and solutions. That's what we call genetics with a purpose, with management solutions and with services. CRV is a European cattle improvement company, and we are going back 140 years, and I'm very proud of that, because it also means that we succeed in our task of continuity, not only for our member farmers, but also for ourselves. We are a unique company in the sense that, opposed to all our American competitors, we own the herd book, we own milk recording, we own type classification, and we also own the AI service. So we have everything combined in one company. And that also results in the fact, this all together, that we are the owners of the genetic reference population as one of the two companies in the world. The other one is in New Zealand, but CRV is the one in Europe and the US. We own our own genomic reference population. That is unique about CRV. The other unique thing is that we are a limited company with 2 cooperative shareholders. And those 2 cooperative shareholders are not of the same nationality. We have a Belgian, Flemish shareholder that owns 20% of the shares, and we have a Dutch shareholder that owns 80% of the shares. That's rather unique because there's always a cultural exchange, I would say, to put it nicely. But there's also different views on how to manage such a company into the future, and different needs of our farmer shareholders, of our farmer members. Here you can see the history dating back when the herd book came on board, when the milk recording came on board, and the type classification. It really sets us apart from the rest of the cattle improvement companies in the world. We invest in breeding around the world, so we are not an export-oriented company. We start our own breeding activities in different places in the world where we think that milk production is going to grow and also beef production can grow. That means, for example, in Brazil, we are the clear market leader in Brazil with nearly 38% market share. We have local programs for Nelore, for a lot of local Zebu breeds that are crossed with, of course, our product from Western Europe, our US product, or our Kiwi product. And that's what we do at 5 or 6 different locations in the world, and of course we also do export. I said already, here in the US we are also active since 5 years because we think that the US is an example in the world of efficient dairy production. That's why we established a startup here with our own breeding program to service, let's say, the markets in the world there where dairy farmers ask for American product. So in fact we can deliver everything that is in demand by the dairy farmer, and it doesn't matter where he or she is located in the world. Our objectives, and you could also say this is our product portfolio. What do we offer to the market? We offer, of course, AI services, but most importantly we offer management solutions. With the data that we need for breeding, we also turn those data into management support solutions. And they are often online in the cloud, where farmers can access their data. We recalculate these data for certain purposes on farm, where the farmer can use this information for increasing the efficiency on his farm. It is strongly related to genomics at this time. If you can relate phenotypic data to genotypic data, you can enter into precision genetics, into herd management on farm level, and advise farmers to increase the efficiency of their herd. And in that respect, it's very logical that today we introduce better life health and better life efficiency, and that we add the 2 new breeding values to that. Feed efficiency, I think, a unique breeding value in the world. Nobody in the bovine breeding world has come up with that. It is part of this offering of solutions, and it makes farmers more efficient and more competitive. And especially in the US, with a starting view to the outside world for exports, especially to the Chinese market, it becomes increasingly important that the US dairy farmers will continue to decrease their cost price. And these tools, these 2 new breeding values, ketosis and feed efficiency, will help the dairy farmer in doing so. If we combine those with the genomic data that we have them in property, let's say, they are our ownership. If we can do that, then we can predict for a lot of US dairy farmers which cows are the best for them to serve their goal of decreasing the cost price. On top of that, we offer services. So if we come up with the solutions, we also offer services, farm services, pregnancy checks, a lot of other services that you may expect from a AI company, but also, of course, herd book registration, milk production registration, and type classification, as I said in the beginning. So we offer the total package with on-farm consultancy, on-farm advice. As you can see here, is a total package but it's tailor-made to each farmer. And it's always up to his wishes or her wishes, based on the inside of the animal, on genomics, precision genetics, but also in relation to his or her own management system and the markets that they serve. To give you an example of the efficiency increasement that we realized in the Netherlands is that by genomics we know which part of the DNA is responsible for the production of casein, protein, which is responsible for the production of cheese. If we select cows that have a significant higher amount of this protein, this casein protein in milk, we can increase the efficiency by 10%. So you can produce 10% cheese with the same amount of raw materials in use. And that is the vision that CRV has. Next one, please. Next one, please. That is the vision that CRV has for the future. That's why I would say welcome to tomorrow. The future herd management starts today with the increased feed efficiency and the ketosis test. Next one. In 2050, you heard it everywhere, we have to feed 9 billion people, but the trick is not this 9 billion people. What we have to do is double our output, and we have to halve our input, and that is a huge challenge. And the only way to do that is to be very innovative and to invest a lot in research and development. The 2 breeding values that we are announcing today will definitely have a big impact on this mission and on this vision. The only way to feed the world in the future in a sustainable way is to use less feed and to make sure that we have more output. More kilograms of milk, more kilograms of cheese, whatever the consumer demands. With these 2 breeding values, I think we are capable at least of improving a little bit our efficiency and helping the food producers around the world to achieve this goal. Next one, please. And as I said in the beginning, it is not only about economic food production. Yes, our farmers have to earn money to survive and to pass on the farm to the next generation. But equally, or maybe even more important, is the sustainable food production. We have to use less resources. Today we are using 1.5 planet to feed the 6 billion people that are surrounding us. If we don't change, if we continue the way we are doing, we need 4 planets in 2050. 4 planets, then I can guarantee you we will not exist anymore in 2050. So we feel an obligation to try our utmost to add value to that process of reducing the input factors and increase the output factors. Here you see how CRV implements that vision into a strategy. As I said before, we have our own breeding indexes, better life efficiency and better life health. The basis of those breeding indexes you can see here, it's health, longevity, fertility, production and efficiency, and they are made up of breeding values. And the 2 new breeding values of today is feed efficiency clearly goes into efficiency, and the other one is of course the ketosis breeding value that goes into health. The other ones, of course, we are also working on continuously. It's all related to the DNA makeup of the cow, so we can make fast progress and we can do on-farm selection of cows if you use the talent scan, so if you genotype each cow. I think that will be absolutely crucial in the future. If farmers want to decrease their input cost, tailor-made genetics, then do the right selection of bull, not only on high-ranking TPI or high-ranking European index, that doesn't matter. What we should do is look at the farm as such and at each individual cow to make that for that cow the best bull. Here you see our selection pressure in the better life efficiency and the better life health indexes. You can make your pick, but I think what is important here is that we have now a breeding value that lowers the feed intake per kilogram of milk or per kilogram of meat, if you wish, and we will continue to focus on the health and efficiency traits in the future. So sustainable CRV, economic, but durable, sustainable, not only for us, but especially for our farmers around the globe, and in particular for our shareholders and farmer members in the Netherlands and Belgium. Herd management by CRV, we are ready to solve our future challenges. We are CRV. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for having me here, and thank you for allowing me to present the research work we did as part of with a group of people to help the breeding industry in the broad sense to start selecting for feed efficiency. And feed efficiency is for me a very important trait, because when I started my career as a scientist, in that stage it was the UK, the first important trait I was going to focus on feed efficiency. And in this talk I will try to take you through the lead and also demonstrate to you why today is such an important day for me as well, because it's the first time that we were able to select for feed efficiency in dairy cattle. And that's taking a long route. So in this talk I say very shortly first why it's important, but Roald made it very clear already. Then I look very shortly at why didn't it work in the 1990s and what's different now. And then I'll demonstrate you the research work we did to produce the breeding value for feed intake for the bulls. And that breeding value is taken up by CRV to implement it in their breeding program and their indices. So, well, I've already said feed efficiency is a trait very important for dairy cattle. It's not now, it's been for more than 100 years already. You can go back to research work in the early 1900s where they're comparing different breeds for their feed efficiency. Because feed is the most important variable cost. So in terms of efficiency, it's very important. But also in terms of environmental pollution and greenhouse gases. Feed efficiency is very important. And okay, we all talk about feeding the world twice more output for twice less input. At the same time, when you go to on-farm level, you find lots of evidence that it's really happening today. If you talk about putting maize into bioethanol, in biofuels, or you put it in to feed people directly, or you put it into dairy cows, that competition is making the cost of feed even more important and selection for feed efficiency even more important in the future. Also, last night I heard of a drought in, I think it's California. There's a really sign that the feed costs are going to be more and more important in the future. And then genetics is a very important solution, because we can buy all the feed, we can find a management solution, but genetics has a great advantage. It's relatively cheap. You have to inseminate a cow anyway, because you need a calf and you need the next lactation. So why not inseminate a cow with a bull that makes the next generation is better? You are better off in the future. It's permanent. Look at all the breeds we have created. We are not needing to invest anymore to maintain those breeds and to maintain those advantages. So if you start selecting for your breeding goal, it's an investment in the future, and you don't have to maintain it all the time. There are often management solutions or another concentrates needs a continued investment in this more expensive concentrates. And it's cumulative. Every small step you make is adding for the future. So feed efficiency important, why don't we do it? And I think this was in the 90s really the basic problem. The dairy cattle breeding programs very much rely on progeny testing. And progeny testing was very efficient because we were recording a lot of milk yield and a lot of dairy farms, and therefore we were able to estimate breeding values for dairy bulls. And we could select for those dairy bulls and decide if a young bull became a proven bull or not. However, this was not possible for feed intake. It's too complex, too difficult, and too expensive to measure on a lot of commercial farms, because the daughters of our young bulls are spread across a lot of commercial farms. So in the 90s we spent some time, and in different countries work was done, can't we measure in specialized nucleus herds? But even then the trouble was we are not going to get a breeding value for all the bulls for dry matter intake. And that makes it very ineffective and very difficult to start selecting for that trait. So that was a very important issue. Yes, please. Another important issue was we were selecting for milk yield and type traits in the early 90s, if I summarize very shortly. And the next big thing was going to be feed efficiency. But feed efficiency is a more complex trait. It's more complex than just increasing milk yield. If you take the wet box on the top, the feed intake of a cow is then digested, is partitioned, metabolized through the available energy for milk, maintenance, reproduction, health and growth. And what makes dairy cows very specific is that in early lactation, body condition score is lost, so energy comes available for milk production, for the other functions, and later on it has to be rebuilt. So feed efficiency is a complex trait that needs to be considered in a broader breeding goal. Just simply selecting for feed efficiency is not a good thing. If you look at the other species like the poultry and the pigs, that's certainly what we learned from it. So in the 90s, selection, broader breeding goals was still under discussion, and it was not that far yet. So at that moment it wasn't a good time to start bringing in feed efficiency in there. And finally, at that time, the discussion was about selecting for milk yield, more skinnier cows, lower body condition score, and how does that affect health, fertility and longevity? And what are the consequences for energy balance? We don't want to produce much more milk and eat far less, because the energy in the milk has to come from somewhere. So again, you have to bring feed efficiency in the broader context. And in the 90s, that was still a little bit difficult. But today we live in a completely different scene. And I think that makes it why we can do it today and it wasn't possible then. Because we don't rely on the progeny anymore for selecting bulls and for breeding values. Progeny testing is already replaced, or started to be replaced, by genomic selection. And that means you still need to record feed intake, but not necessarily on the daughters of the bulls you're interested in. And that makes life a whole lot different. Furthermore, if you compare to this the 90s, feed efficiency was the big thing, but we moved it away. The big thing was health, fertility, longevity, and the much broader breeding goals. So we can now select for feed efficiency within the context of all the other traits. So therefore, it becomes much easier and much more, how do I say it, justified to select for feed efficiency. Especially when we bring feed efficiency as part of the broader breeding goals that have been developed since then. So we were discussing this, and I think a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we said, oh, in this new era, maybe we should look again. How can we produce a breeding value for feed intake for dairy bulls? Is it possible? We have genomic selection, maybe we should try it. And discussing a little bit further, we thought there are two options. And one of the options is, we have a lot of feed intake data. Yeah, a lot. That's always difficult. But certainly in the Netherlands, we were able to come up with more than 2,000 cows with feed intake data. And I tell you, most other countries in the world, they might have 700, 800, 900, maybe 1,000. But relatively spoken, we thought maybe that's a chance. We should at least try it. For quite a number of those cows, we had DNA available. And we said maybe we can make a genomic prediction equation. And using that genomic prediction equation, we can apply it to all the bulls that are genotyped today and predict the genomic breeding value for feed intake. This will be a first step and an important step. But there was another second step. If you look at nutritionists and they want to predict how much would a cow eat, the first question they ask, how much is the yield? The second question they ask, what's the weight? And then they continue and look at all the feed nutritional components and do very complex diets I don't understand, but they are obviously very good. But that's telling us that, yeah, basically maybe we can predict already quite a bit of the variation in feed intake using predictors. Milk yield, fat yield, protein yield, and the type classification information. Because they give a very good estimate of the size of the cow. So if you have a big part already based on that, and then add on top of that the genomic prediction, and that's in the next slide, then maybe we can finally come up with a breeding value for AI bulls for feed intake. And that can then be implemented in the breeding goal and the breeding programs of AI companies. So this is what we set out to do. And we collected all the data, and roughly we had about 2,300 cows with feed intake. The complicated picture on the right shows you every line is a cow. And every data point is a feed intake record in a week. It's either parity 1, parity 2, parity 3, or parity 4. And as you see, the data is very mixed. A lot of cows have, on the top have more than one lactation. Other cows only have part of the lactation. So it's a complicated effort to bring this together into a genomic prediction equation. But we developed all the technology to do that, and we came up with the first genomic predictions. And the genomic predictions are in this graph, the histogram represented for nearly 6,000 Dutch bulls that have genotypes available. And what we see is on the left-hand side for you, is that the range is about 2 kilograms dry matter intake per day in terms of breeding values. For some animals eat during the lactation about 2 kilograms more than other cows. So that's a reasonable range. If we look at the reliability at the bottom, we see that reliability starts roughly about 20%. There's a peak around here. And then there's a long tail end of reliabilities. If you go completely to the right, there are very few bulls, and for fun I've listed them above. These are bulls that have had a lot of daughters in the research herds. So some of those bulls might have had 20, 30, 40 daughters in the data set we were using. And they are getting obviously very high reliabilities. But they are not relevant for breeding programs. They were when they were young, but not today anymore. What's more important, what is the genomic prediction doing? And 20%, okay, it's a good start. We're not there, but it's an expensive trade. We don't have anything at the moment. So maybe as animal breeders in dairy cattle, we need to get used to maybe lower reliabilities, but I realize it's very difficult to sell bulls on a breeding value with 20%. So therefore, we went to the second step, using the predictors. And it was not a surprise that we found very good genetic correlation with the milk yield traits. I averaged them around 0.6. And also stature, chest width, and body depth were genetically correlated with feed intake. I don't think it's for any of us a surprise that bigger cows eat more, because they also require more maintenance cost. And that's also why the nutritionist asks for the weight of the cow. So now we have the genomic information. We developed a prediction equation based on the milk yield traits and the linear type traits, and we combine that in one breeding value. And now we see the breeding value, the blue breeding value is the same as in the previous graph, but now we see the red breeding value is the combined breeding value. And now we see a range of about 4 kilograms feed intake per cow per day. Well, this is for bulls, but. So that's really important, and it's important information if you want to start selecting for feed efficiency. Also, what's very important is that reliability improves quite a bit. And basically, it's all above the 50%. You see a little hop here. These are the bulls that don't have a lot of daughters yet for the predicted traits, milk yield and linear type traits. But still, these reliabilities are worthwhile starting to select on and start using in the breeding program. That's also the conclusion we draw from the work. These differences are very important between bulls. We can't ignore them anymore. We need to include them in the breeding decisions. Maybe for the future we want to increase the reliability more, especially from the genomic prediction, but we have made the first step. And we also thought a little bit further, and to picture all the work that's going on increasing the reliability for genomic prediction, it's important that we are very busy at the moment trying to get more feed intake records. If you start to develop an area, and we're working into it, I think over the past couple of weeks we have been able to increase the data set already with 1/3 extra feed intake records. And there are much more options around, even in the Netherlands, where we can get data to add to the reference population. That might not be enough, and therefore, also 2 years ago, I started the Global Dry Matter Initiative, where we are collaborating with a lot of other countries and trying to bring all the feed intake data together. Getting an international data set with all the feed intake data that's available in the world, or there are people that want to contribute. Also CRV is an important partner in a consortium. Because if we want to think about the future, and if we need to think about feeding the world, then we need to get the best information to start selecting for feed efficiency. And there are many options. I see a lot of research projects looking at other ways of measuring feed intake, sensors, etc. So I think there will be lots of developments in this area for the next coming years. So to sum up, a breeding value for feed intake is available now on all the dairy bulls. It's up to the AI industry, and it's up to the CRV to implement that in their breeding goals. I must say I'm also a bit proud that we're standing here together here today, that it's actually happening. We're working on the same area. So that's a good feeling. And in the next talk you will hear about that. But furthermore, the further research work and the developments are on increasing the reliability of genomic prediction. So, thank you.
Well, before I start, I'd like to thank Roel again for coming. I'm absolutely in awe of the ability of our global research community. We owe a lot of great innovations to them, and we're humbled as a company to be able to commercialize those ideas. Today, we'd like to talk about how these breeding values will fit into our Better Life Health and Better Life Efficiency Indexes. I'd like to start with Better Life Efficiency. We've talked an awful lot about the feed intake breeding value, but we've created an index, Better Life Efficiency, to address that problem that Roald identified, which is that we use too much of our resources. And so with our Better Life Efficiency Index, we try to incorporate the breeding values that we have had in the past and have continued to develop, like milk production, like protein production, like productive life, into or with new breeding values to give farmers the opportunity to see a real efficient concept. If you look at what we're able to do, we're able to look at and make animals that are high production, animals that have long lifetime production by giving them productive life and effective calving intervals, and also now incorporating body weight and feed intake to really give global farmers a true tool to measure efficiency. Feed intake really for efficiency was the missing link. We've had for years production. We were able to measure lifetime production. We were very excited several years ago when we were able to make strides on longevity. But now, you know, feed intake can be the silver bullet for us in looking at how much feed goes into the cow and what the conversion is into milk production, into protein production. And we're very excited to be the first AI company in the world to bring this commercial to the market. What does efficiency mean? What does the Better Life Efficiency Index mean? 5% increase in efficiency allows us to make more efficient milk, 1,500 pounds in a lifetime, which is $295 more per cow. On a 1,000 cow dairy, that's $295,000. There's a huge economic impact for farmers in reducing their feed costs and their feed consumption. And specifically, we work in a lot of regions. And if you look in some regions where they are not close to feed costs can range tremendously from one region to another. So as we go around the globe, this value could be even more important in some regions where there are less feed. We also need to recognize that we have an animal, and that animal has to be healthy to be an efficient producer. And so we bring to the market a Better Life Health Index to address those concerns. Within the Better Life Health Index, we look at breeding values that we're able to collect data on. We have a tremendous advantage, as Roald said, to have data that's a large data set that's owned by CRV, and to bring some traits that aren't available in some of our global competitors, like udder health, like hoof health, like a real birthing index, and our new trait, which will be ketosis. The ketosis value is very important. Today it is a low heritable value, but like anything, any innovation that's introduced into the market, 1.0 is only the first generation. But what we see for farmers is that ketosis is a huge issue. And ketosis is an issue that I really don't think we completely understand how it affects the cow's production. We think of a ketotic cow that goes down and has to be treated. But ketosis as an illness can be also very, can have subclinical effects. And I think that's the real value and weight of this breeding value. The return on investment of our Better Life Health Index, 5% increase in health equals 2% fewer problems, $92 a cow, and on 1,000 cows, that's $92,000. And people have stopped me and said, Brett, why don't we just focus on efficiency? Because the payoff for efficiency, it seems to be much higher for me than health. But you have to have a balance. The cow is our engine, and that engine has to run perfectly. And the Better Life Health Index helps that. But what conclusions can we draw? I think we can draw that this is an exciting day. This is a fantastic advancement for global farmers, and it's a great opportunity for us to show the first version of many of our Better Life Health Indexes. As we continue to roll through what I look at as a Pandora's box of innovations and research, I can say that in 20 years I'll look back and say that this was an important day for us, but we'll go great strides past this. But it's a great day for us to incorporate intake and ketosis into what I think are really important indexes for farmers. Thank you.